In this video, we're going to take a look at f-string objects in Python. F-string objects, they're like an enhanced type of string object. They offer some additional functionality and simplification over using standard Python string objects. They can also be a bit faster depending on how you use them, and they're always prefixed with an F. Now, before we look at f-strings, let's look at syntactically how a standard Python string works. So one of the things we can do with a standard Python string, and let me clear the console down here so we'll have a little bit of real estate. But I have some variables here, a couple of string literals, an integer, some more string literals. And in this print method here, with a standard Python string object, I can pass them in sort of in the same fashion where I would specify elements in a list or an array. Okay? So sequentially here, first name, last name, age, profession, and affiliation. Everywhere the print method encounters the %s, 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 it's just going to pass these variables in sequentially. So first name, last name, age, profession, affiliation. Let's run it. I'm going to hit F5 and we'll see how this works. Hello, Curly Slelly. You are 53. You are a unicorn. You are a member of the Brotherhood of Twilight Sparkle. Okay? So that's how that works. Let's look at another example of a standard, Python class string object or string class object, and look at syntactically how it functions, how it works. Same set of variables, string literals, integer, string literals. But if I were to use empty curly braces, same thing. Using the print method and a standard Python string class object, I could call all these variables sequentially. So that's what will happen here in section A. But in section B, I want to show you that I can access the index of that. So I scrambled these variables up on purpose. I just threw them in a random order. Whereas here they're sequential. Here they're just randomly scrambled. But I can fix that by using the index or subscript value here. All right, so it doesn't start at 1. It starts at 0 and then goes to the last element. There's that off by 1 issue, like when you deal with arrays or when you deal with lists. Same thing here, okay, for our standard Python string class object, because really it's an array of type character or an array of substrings, however you want to think of it. So in this case, indexed as 2 in the curly braces. That's 0, 1, and 2. That's going to be first name. So hello, first name. And then 0 is the very first element, last name. So hello, Carly Solali. You are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to be my age, right? 53. And then index of 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. My profession. What's my profession? I'm a unicorn. And then you are a member of 0, 1. And that's affiliation, the Brotherhood of Twilight Sparkle. Let's hit F5. Going to clear our console and see how that looks. Okay, so again, even in a random order, when I scrambled them up, as long as I index it and the curly braces, hello Carly, you are 53, you are a unicorn, you are a member of the Brotherhood of Twilight Sparkle. Okay, so those are how standard string class objects work in Python. Now let's take a look at our new and improved f-strings, our enhanced f-string objects. And actually, I still prefer many times the standard string class object. It's a matter of preference, potatoes, potatoes, tomatoes, tomatoes, but I want you to be aware of f-strings and how to use them in case you choose to use these colors in your programming palette. Okay, so let's go up here, new enhanced f-strings. How do we use them? Well, we prefix them with an F. And how do they work? Well, look down here, A, using a basic F string. I've got the same variables up here as I did in the previous 2 examples where we were using the old standard Python string class objects. But with F strings, I can just use the variables inside of curly braces in any order that I want to. I don't have to terminate it with a double quote and then use a comma as I would with a standard string class. I don't have to concatenate anything with the overloaded addition operator. I just pass the variables in any order that I want to, as long as I put them in the curly braces. So this will display the same thing, but syntactically understand that the F string is much different than the standard Python string class object. Also, I can use fstrings to print data types without typecasting or conversion. So I'd have to do this first, and then I'd have to typecast or convert it to a string. I'd have to do it first as an integer if that was a standard string class. With an f string, I can combine it all together. So I can do some math inside the curly braces, multiply 2 by 444, get the result 888, and then the f string will automatically typecast or convert it from the integer data type into the string data type so that the print method can display it. We'll see that when we run the function. Also, I can call methods directly on fstring. So I can call the lower method, which we discussed in previous videos, to convert my characters to all lowercase on both first name and last name. So there's a capital C, a capital S. It'll convert all of them to lowercase. And again, I don't have to terminate with a double quote or nest parenthetically. If I were going to do that with a standard string, I'd have to nest it parenthetically and then use the dot operator on the other side of the parentheses to do that. We'll look at doing that in future videos as well. But this video is all about f-strings, so let's do it the f-string way. Okay, so let's see, make sure I'm running the right method, new f-strings 1. Let's display the code. Here it is, new f-strings 1, and if I were to run this example, I hit F5. Look, using a basic f string prefixed with an F. It's the same thing. Hello, Carly Solali, you're 53, you're a unicorn, you're a member of the Brotherhood of Twilight Sparkle. Doing some math. 2 times 444 equals 888. And that would have been multiple statements of code, multiple lines of code without semicolons, but we combined it all with an f string. It took care of a lot of things for us, right? Including the typecasting. Converting it back to a string when it was done. And then look, we called the lowercase method and it converted the capital C and the capital S to lowercase c and lowercase s. So 3 different examples of some of the enhanced functionality of f-strings and how they work. Let's take a look at our next example, which will be using an f-string with a class type object. Okay, and we haven't covered classes yet. So if you know what classes are, and this is not your first programming language, you've used classes in other languages, this would be a no-brainer. If you've never used classes before and you're like, why the heck do I want a class? That's coming in future videos. In subsequent videos, we'll talk about classes. You can do many wonderful things. A class, to put it in a nutshell, it's a programmer-defined data type. It's a data type that you make, like an integer, or a float, or a string, or a Boolean, but you create it. And it can be much more complex and sophisticated than some of the built-in Python data types. For instance, you could write an entity class. And we'll do this in a project where we create like a role-playing game. And that could be the base class. And you could inherit, child classes could inherit data members, attributes, and methods and functions from that abstract data type or that class. You could write a monster class and instantiate or create a Godzilla or a Mothra. You could write an employee class if you're working on a database and have all the social security number, first name, last name, phone number, all the pieces of data that go with an employee. But just, for now, if that seems weird or confusing, we'll go over that in great detail in upcoming videos dedicated just to classes. But for now, just to show you that how an f-string works with a class, and that it can work with a class, I've included this as an example. So we define the unicorn class. We have the constructor, which begins underscore, underscore, init, underscore, underscore. That's how you always define a constructor within a class in Python. We have a couple of special functions here. The str method, and it just basically returns a human-readable string representation of a class object. You see, I might have hundreds of attributes and pieces of data associated in a class. Could be integers and floats and strings and other classes of object instantiated within that class itself. Images and binary things. I could have hundreds of functions and methods that go with that class. It's defined in that blueprint, that class. But the str method will just quickly give me a string representation of what that class is, what it has, what it does. think of the or str method for standard users, okay? So the str method, that'll be for your average user. There's also the repr method here, and it's more detailed than the str method. And if the str method is not defined, it would be called, but it's more detailed. Think of it more for essentially developers, okay? So we've defined the unicorn class, the constructor, the str, and in this case, the repr method. Now, down here, we're going to build a unicorn. So we defined the custom data type unicorn. We built our own data type, the unicorn class. And I pass into the constructor, Carly, Salali, and 53, my first name, last name, and age. Okay, they're all up here. Well, I can then call that the str method just by using my instance name. So the new unicorn instance, I defined the data type unicorn. That's my blueprint. New unicorn instance, that's the actual instance I constructed in a memory. That's the handle whereby I get to the object that I built in memory that I defined, the unicorn class. So if I just call that, I'm going to get the str method, the string representation of that more complex or sophisticated class object. And here I'm going to explicitly call with exclamation and R the repr method. And it's going to do the same thing as the str method, just display first name, last name, and age, but it'll add a disciple of Twilight Sparkle. Okay, same thing. So if we take a look at this, let me clear the console. And again, let's make sure, yep, we got that commented out. So to use it, let's see what happens here. Hit F5. All right, so the first time I'm calling the str method, first name, last name, and age. Carly Salali is 53. Kali. Oh, I misspelled my own name. How crazy is that? Did I misspell? How did I do that? Wow. Oh, I sure did. I can't spell my own name. Oh well. Okay, here we go. All right, so Carly Salali is 53. The next time we call the repr method, and that is Carly Salali is 53, a disciple of Twilight Sparkle. Okay? So just an example of using an f string with a class. You know, building the object, using f strings inside the class, and using f strings outside the class. Let's look at a multi-line example of f strings. And let me pull this down just a little bit to squeeze a little bit more code there. Okay. Trying to squeeze all this on the screen here. All right, there. So in this multi-line function, and I'm going to get rid of the white space here. There, it's a little more. All right, so same set of variables, right? String literals, an integer. But just to show you that without using the overloaded addition operator, as you would with the standard Python string class object, I can basically combine substrings together into sort of a master, string, combining all those together in a string. And I'm going to print that here, concatenated f strings, right? They're all prefixed with f. Same thing here, prefixed with f strings. But syntactically, this is more like a list or an array of strings, okay? I don't have the backslash, and either way, but just to show you, we're doing the same thing. If we run it, and this will just kind of give us more of an idea of the syntax of f strings, all right? So there, just displaying both of them. Let's take a look at another example. All right. We are going to look at using f strings with dictionary type objects. Now, a dictionary, we haven't gone over this yet, but we will in future videos. I tend to say that a lot, but we have to start somewhere, okay? In future videos, we'll talk about dictionaries and tuples and lists and iterables and arrays and things like that. But a dictionary, think of it as a collection of key value pairs, okay? So you have a key, sort of indexes that value by name, lets you retrieve that value by calling out its name, and then that key references an element an object, a container, a variable that holds a value inside of it. So it's a key value pair, okay? That's a dictionary. And to define a dictionary, we're in this case going to define the dictionary unicorn. And the dictionary unicorn, the key would be first name. The value would be Carly, separated by a colon and then a, the key and the value, and then the next key value pair would be separated by the comma. So the first name Carly, the last name Salali, okay? The age 53, key value, key value, key value, right? That's how it works in a dictionary. A very useful structure in Python, which we'll go over later. But look at how an f-string can work with that as well. I could just specify the key to get the value stored in it and pass that into my f-string. So in the print method, I'm prefixing it with an f. I'm telling Python, hey, this is not a standard string class object. It's an f-string, okay? The unicorn is the key and then the value, Carly. And then the key, last name, right? I'm referencing the dictionary up here. Dictionary, first name, and then the value would be Carly. Dictionary, and then last name, and the value would be Salali. It has lived to the ripe old age of dictionary name, and then the value stored by the key of age. All right. So if we run this, let's clear it. And let's see how that looks. So the unicorn is Carly Salali. It has lived to the ripe old age of 53. Just again to show you how an f-string works with dictionaries. And last, let's look at escape sequences here. All right, so escape sequences are a bit different with f-strings. Clear my console then. All right, so we can use double sequences of characters as escape sequences instead of, look how I have to do this with the standard string literal and the print method. Backslash quote, and then backslash to have a backslash, and then another backslash on a quote. I have to have all those escape sequences to get those ASCII characters into my string literal and the print method. But I could do that with an f-string just by doubling the character. So if I do curly brace, open, and then close curly brace, then that would be interpreted as an escape character, an escape sequence. So if we were to run this method, let me hit F5. And then notice here, in this case, curly flag to make braces appear, double them. And then see, I have, as a string literal, it's interpreted or displayed as 3 plus 2 in curly braces because of the use of the double curly braces. So I want you to be aware of and become familiar with and comfortable with using the standard Python string class objects in your coding and f-strings. They're both very useful data types in Python. If you enjoyed this video, please click subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell. And then when I create future videos, you'll be notified. Thanks for watching.